Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. And today we're getting into not what's in front of us, but I'm just doing a talking point, obviously would be inside the title of the video, just talking point in regards to the Sony FX5 that just released, or I believe it just released. I don't think it was just announced, but I know some people have it in their hands already. So I thought that they were just like in a preview state. I'm not 100% sure, but I just wanted to give a little bit of my thoughts on the camera and kind of really just kind of the realm where we're at when it comes to these cameras. Now I'm going to apologize in advance that I have the AC on. It is way too hot for me to not have it on, so I apologize if that is hindering my audio a little bit. I do have noise cancellation on, so I'm hoping that makes a difference. And I actually wanted to do a talking head video, but I really wasn't able to right now because I've got little ones running around right now, so that's just not something that's practical for me. They will definitely jump into the video if that was the case. So so this was just released coming off of the heels of a lot of people wanting a successor to the FX3, which was very popular, came out about 6 years ago, actually got a price increase. And I think that was around the time frame where I was a little bit out of the market at that time and out of the kind of the awareness space, or the know about space, or just in the mix from when I used to be really deep into photography and knowing what was out with like the digital SLR spaces, the cinema spaces and whatnot. But I know that way back, Sony pretty much gained a foothold on pretty much like everything and became like the dominant brand. And so I'm going to assume that the FX3, because it was so popular, was at the beginning, well, somewhere in the middle of that realm. And since that time, you had a lot of Canon, Nikon try to really catch back up, because those used to be like the kind of the kings of the camera wars back in the days. But you know, my thoughts on it, especially coming from a space where I didn't know much on the FX3 when it was out. But it seemed that in this year's time frame, 2026, where you have the C50, which dropped, I think, just before we came to 2026, but then also followed on the heels of it may have been in 2026 or just like, you know, late 2025. But coming to that space, we had, you know, that sensor between the C50, the RV, the R6V, and the R6 Mark III. Essentially, you kind of have this kind of catch-up space where the FX3, being as expensive as it was, started to become a little bit odd in terms of where it fit. And then so its successor coming into place, it's not really a successor. They're going to run hand in hand. It's not really a replacement, but the FX5 is supposed to be like the bigger brother that's supposed to be better. Price, I think, brings it. I'm not knocking the camera in any way, but I think that like one conversation that's not really being had that much, put aside the specs and the features, which I think it has a couple novelty tricks. A lot of cameras that come out now will have a novelty trick. For the Canon line with the C50, it was the open gate. So that was okay. They got open gate. They got 7K open gate. But some of these tricks that are done, you know, you got other companies that either already have these tricks or, you know, will have tricks of their own. One thing that I think can never be overlooked is the price. You can't have where you jack up the price for, you know, a couple of tricks and you think within that in this competitive market that it's going to stand out. Now, I'm not knocking the Sony anyway. I'm just speaking on the fact that where it lines up when you look at the FX3 and you look at the FX5, and then you look at the price of those, and then you compare them to say like, you know, Canon in particular. I don't know all of Nikon's lines, but I know of the Z1, is it? Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, because I don't know too much on it into that space. Here you can see I'm pretty dated right now. I just purchased actually today the R6V, so that's going to be coming in the mail maybe tomorrow or the next day. But they have the Nikon, like I said, Z1, I believe it is, and that goes for But yeah, the Z1 goes for I believe it's 2,100 and some change, which is a great competitive price. And then in the Canon's lineup right now, I did a video before talking about the R6V, that it's okay, but there would have been a better placement that I think that they could have gone for, which would have been like, say, a R8V. I think something like that would have been a better, like there's a big gap between the R50V versus the R6V. And I did a video on that, so you guys can check that out if you want, of how that in between there would have been a better sweet spot. But because the competition has not made something really cheaper, it almost didn't matter. And now looking in hindsight, when I made the video, I don't know if Canon knew that, if they knew what Sony was going to put out, but Sony, being their biggest competitor, really didn't put anything that's coming below their price range. So it's almost like Sony is trying to come after the upper price range market, and Canon is trying to come after the lower price range market. And I feel that, you know, maybe it's that they're trying to like not directly compete against each other, who knows? But I think that becomes one of the biggest issues, where you look at, like I said, the FX3. We're at a space now where all the cameras pretty much can do a great job. And the FX3, which comes with a top handle, is more comparable to the C50. But then the FX5, you could say it's like Canon's more equal competitor to that would be the C80. But to be honest with you, the C80 and the C50, though they have, the C80 is supposed to be considered a higher range camera, but the sensor in the C50 is newer. People who are shopping the C50, I almost feel like, because of the price difference, wouldn't even be looking at the FX5 unless you're part of Sony already. If you're part of Sony, that's different. Whenever you're part of an ecosystem, you're not going to switch up. But in regards to just where it stands now, it's got a couple of good features on it. It's got this what is the 16-bit color, which is, you know, nothing has that a bit of color really right now, but that's something that definitely is a very what was I saying, like you know, this kind of, I don't want to use the word gimmicky trait, but it's got this novelty trait, but it stands out of the workflow that a lot of other people probably have, because they're not used to dealing with that. I'm not saying it's going to make it harder for the workflow, but they aren't going to have other cameras that match it. So then you definitely are going to have to probably get multiple of those. And then when people are doing that, that's definitely outside of the box of what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the people who are, you know, they got like a 20, 30 grand budget to buy film equipment, and they're doing major, big kind of, you know, production type of shoots where, you know, they're getting the top of the top. And if they get smaller things, it's only for the convenience of, I want a smaller rig. So they might say, I want an FX5, but I already got whatever other $20,000 camera exists, 20,000 Sony or Canon or whatever it is. And they're just like, I want this for the smaller form factor when I feel like just kind of running around. I'm not referring to that. But when we think about like just the kind of middle ground consumer content creator, you know, maybe beginning movie maker, this and that, it definitely feels like Sony is doing something that Apple used to always do back in the days, which is lean on their reputation as a way of saying, I don't, you know, you're gonna still be here, and I can make a move that doesn't make sense to the masses, or to like me staying competitive in the more affordable market. You know, but I'm gonna do it anyway because you are going to make this purchase. You actually see it with the fact that, and I'm not really big into games. I don't own like a PlayStation or anything like that. The latest system that I owned is a Xbox 360, which I have my kids play nowadays. Which for you guys who don't know, that's super old. But Sony right now is stopping their media. I wanted to do a video on this as well, but I didn't get a chance to yet. But I'm just jumping to that topic a little bit right now. They're stopping their physical media for their video games. My point to that is they're once again resting on this idea that we're Sony, we can do whatever the hell we want, and you're gonna pay it. They don't realize that you do stuff like that, you're gonna lose a lot of customers. So once again, I'm not knocking the FX5 if they feel that it needs to be that price, but I really think with that being the latest camera from Sony, while the latest camera from Canon is the R6V. Two total opposite cameras. One is affordable for content creators and gives you almost everything a content creator would need, and a more hardcore, film user could still dabble in it. They still could use it. They might need a few other things, so maybe it'd have to be a B camera for them. But the point is that it's usable by the people who are more experienced, but it's very much targeted by that prosumer, content creator getting serious about their work. They want to be able to shoot raw if they need to. They got all these other kind of gimmicks inside the camera, zebras and all that other kind of good stuff. All that kind of stuff, dual ISO. They got all these kind of things for $2,500. And then that's their latest camera. This is my point. That's their latest camera they put out. And then Sony's latest camera is like $5,000. And it's great. It's a beast. But you could see they're going after two different sets of people. And I think with us in a space now with social media where a lot of people are kind of like, I just want to make things. I want to video record. Most people using their phones, but if they want to step up from their phone, they're like, I want something else. Or maybe they still use their phone, but they're like, every now and then, I want something else. I almost feel like Sony should have put out something. I don't know. They have other cameras, so I'm not too familiar with their complete lineup. Maybe there is another camera like that. I know they have, I forget what it's called, but the Sony Z something, I think it is, that is the equivalent of the Canon C50V. I've seen some videos on it. So they do have lower level ones. So maybe what I'm saying doesn't have as much weight because I'm not too familiar with all the different things out there. But I definitely know that the camera just feels so expensive. It feels so expensive. It's probably really good. I think a lot of people are going to get it. I think a lot of people are going to jump in the bandwagon. I think it's great. I just think it's a bit expensive. And I think that is going to really, as Sony does, like Sony, their FX3 is expensive. And then the FX5 is expensive. If the FX3 came down in price and was like, okay, we've been out for 6 years, we're going to make this $3,000, maybe even $2,800, $2,700. I think that would be a good move, because then if that went hand in hand with the FX5, people will go, okay, I have an option. I have another option that's a lot more affordable. But I feel like not addressing that $2,500 space. And like I said, maybe, I don't know, maybe they do have other cinema cameras like that. But if they don't, I think that's a bit of a problem. And yes, you could just do the regular mirrorless, and a lot of people are fine with that. But I feel that for people who want to be creatives, there is this new evolution now of the separation of the cinema camera versus the photography camera. And even though you're going to have those for a little bit while longer, I really honestly do see cameras going back to that space that they used to be, where you had the camcorder and you had a still photo camera separately. I think we're going to go back to that space again, because yes, you have the hybrids, but a lot of times you have a lot of these people who like to do video. I don't want to just say content creators, but run the gamut of all the people who like to do video, and it's so many that that want to just be focused on that. And then the ones who want photography, yeah, they do the hybrid, but it's almost like you could see where a lot of them are like, I don't mind because I'm going to rig out a camera. A lot of people who are heavy into like some kind of video work almost don't mind having the video camera and the stills camera separately. They don't really use their still camera for video that much. Like some people do, but I feel like we're getting into a space where that space of creating, I feel that a lot of people really are kind of like, okay, if I'm doing, say, 80% of video work, and almost anybody you see in social media now is primarily video work now. It's like that space of where it's like photographers being in the content creation space is kind of slimming down. When you see those guys who are like, say they're photographers, but they're doing all this video stuff, they're really, they're photographers, but they make YouTube or some kind of social media content where that's their primary job now. So they're almost like they're a content creator before a photographer now. And that's different. You get what I'm saying? That's different. So 9 times out of 10, the people you actually see in social media content creation are video people because they need the video to show what they're doing. So with that being said, I do feel a lot of people are getting to a space where if they do like say 80% video, they're like, I don't need a stills camera. I'm getting a dedicated video one that, yeah, you can pull the shutter button and take a snap here and there, but they're so dedicated for video. And I feel the people who are actually out there taking photos, they're not vlogging about taking photos. They're actually out there taking photos. They're not going to need a video camera because they're going to be like, I'm out here really taking photos. And I know, like for me, when I was always into photography, now granted, I was never a heavy video person, but even now, there's a reason why I was never in a rush to upgrade my my equipment, because this right here is an older Canon digital SLR now, came out in like 2017. And I bought it in 2018. This, I like doing photography. And so when I would do photography, I like this. This is what I like for photography. And I don't want this is the reason why I never wanted to get mirrorless anytime soon. At the time, I now caved in because of a specific reason for video. I don't have the intention of shooting still photography with my mirrorless. I'm fine with this for that purpose. So the point I'm getting at is that I do think we're going to get to a space where the hybrid bodies are less and less. You're going to have, yes, they're going to include the feature because you can, but I feel like they're not going to include heavy features. Like they're going to be able to record video, but I feel like you're going to probably start getting to a space where the still focused cameras are not probably shooting raw maybe, or, they don't have fans, obviously. There's going to be less things going on with the video as the more affordable cinema cameras, which are now equal in price to the still cameras, are going to say, hey, like in the case with the R6V and a few other cameras from other companies as well. But using that one as an example, the stills camera costs more. I'm calling it a stills camera, the R6 Mark III. I'm going to say that just so I don't get confused with the V and the 3. The R6 Mark III is more of a stills camera. I know it's a hybrid, but I'm going to call it more of a stills camera. And with that being said, that separation is going to be a real thing. And like I said, something like the R6 Mark III to me is considered really a dedicated stills camera. So I think that those features, a lot of features are going to start getting removed and more watered down in the stills camera. And the companies are going to say, well, we already have that. We're going to implement that inside the video cameras. And like I was about to get at, when you look at the R6 Mark III and then the R6V, what you see is the video one is actually cheaper in price, but it has a lot of features that the stills camera does not have. A fan, it has certain like other features and not the sensor is the same, but other features about it that are different. I'm not really too sure all those different features. The recording aspects are the same, but there's a few different things that I know internally that operate a little bit different. And so my point to that is, I do think we're going to get in a space where those two concepts get separated, where at one time it was the biggest thing for them to be merged into one. I think they're going to start falling separately again, because one, it makes more money for the company, and two, it makes creators who really don't need that to be able to have more of what they need and less of what they don't. And once you start having that space, I do think that price-wise, it's going to be important to aim towards creators who can get a cinema style body for very affordable, because it's going to be where, okay, soon we're going to have the $2,000, it'll be right around the corner, the $2,000 cinema. I mean, when you look at the cameras like the CR50V and the other similar ones to it, like the Sony's one, I forget what it's called right now, but the Sony's version that's like that. I believe there's a Nikon one that's also like that, within that $600 range or somewhere in that sub $1,000 range. You already have that now on the lower end. They're the equivalent of, of like saying mini cinema bodies on that smaller end. A little more content creator base and not on the full level cinema, but you get the point, they're in that same line. So at that point, building non-affordable premium cinema bodies starts to become a play that gets to become really bad when the competitors are making virtually cinema based, because I know the V series is not really cinema, but when it comes to Canon, but virtually cinema based camera bodies for 2,500, and in Nikon's case with the Z1, if I'm saying that correctly, $2,200. I think definitely Sony is going to have to definitely start coming into that space. But like I said, I may not know. Maybe there are. Post down below in the comments below if there are other Sony cameras that are below $3,000 that are cinema based cameras that are not hybrid. They don't have the viewfinder. They're just the little box shape, and that's their dedication. Anyway, you guys, as always, like, share, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next video.